On March 30th, 1867, the following event took place. The Russian Empire sold Alaska to the United States of America. And I must say that even today, there are still a huge number of myths. Was it a sale or a lease? Why was such a large and resource-rich territory sold at all? Today, I will analyze all these myths in detail, and today we will talk about why Alaska was sold and bought. There is a rumor that Empress Catherine the Great of Russia signed the paper without looking and sold Alaska to the Americans. Let's make it clear right away. Nothing of the sort happened. Catherine had nothing to do with the sale of Alaska to the United States. This happened much later. But let's start with the basics. What is Alaska? How did it become part of the Russian Empire? And how was it purchased by the United States? The name Alaska comes from the Aleut language and means Great Land. It really is an enormous territory. Kodiak Island, for example, is now the second largest island in the United States after Hawaii. All these islands stretch almost 1,700 kilometers. Alaska is washed by the Arctic and Pacific Oceans. The mainland part of Alaska is a peninsula 700 kilometers long. Overall, Alaska is a mountainous region, with more volcanoes than the entire territory of the United States. Why was Alaska needed? First of all, it was inhabited by indigenous peoples. Aleuts, Eskimos, and various Native American tribes engaged in traditional hunting and fishing. Fur trade was important here, hunting seals, sea lions, walruses, and sea otters. I'll tell you more about sea otters separately later. They are very special animals. Fishing was also important. Salmon and many other species from cod to herring lived in the rivers and coastal waters of Alaska. Another interesting fact, glaciers cover 41,440 square kilometers, which is roughly the size of the entire Netherlands. So, Alaska is a huge, vast space. It is believed that the first Europeans to see the shores of Alaska were members of Semyon Desnev's Russian expedition in 1648. According to legend, they sailed through the Bering Strait from the Arctic Sea to the Pacific, but they did not land on Alaska itself, only saw its shores. For some time, Alaska was largely forgotten. Later, as circumstances allowed, Peter I ordered the Pacific borders to be explored and sent the Bering expedition, which began mapping the region. Bering passed through the same strait as Desnev, but, due to poor visibility, did not see the outline of the North American continent. Alaska was officially discovered later. In 1732, another expedition was sent aboard the St. Gabriel, which crossed the Bering Strait, and now the first Russians set foot on Alaskan territory. Thus, the territory was registered as belonging to the Russian crown. The expedition returned to Russia, but its leader soon died, and nothing happened in Alaska for a while. In 1741, Vitus Bering's second expedition arrived, and his foot stepped on the Aleutian Islands. Here's what they saw. First, the population, Aleuts, Eskimos, and Native Americans. The population was poorly armed and initially quite peaceful. The Russians began to settle Alaska. Traders and adventurers, naturally, were the first to arrive, because there were fish and fur, which could be traded profitably in the Russian Empire. The next major development was the creation of the Russian-American Company. Similar to the East India and West India companies in Europe, this company was created to develop Alaska, extract resources, and sell them for profit in Russia. Part of the shares, according to some sources, was given to Emperor Alexander I, and the company flourished. Russian traders rapidly expanded into the American continent. Indigenous peoples hunted or fished, and their furs were bought and sold. The Russian-American Company had a monopoly and made huge profits. Later, gold and oil would be discovered, But at that time, oil was mostly used as medicine, and gold would be found later during the Alaskan gold rush. They traded with San Francisco, initially supplying furs, then whale oil and baleen, and even ice. Ice was big business because it was needed in storage and restaurants. Ice was shipped from Alaska to California in large blocks, while goods like gunpowder, bullets, and food not available in Alaska were brought back. The Russian colonial system developed quickly. Indigenous groups occasionally attacked settlers, mostly due to dissatisfaction with prices and encroachment on their land. While clashes were frequent, settlers usually managed to defend themselves, though some were extremely bloody. With the discovery of gold, American settlers began arriving, bringing gold-seeking activity. So, everything seemed fine. But things went wrong in the mid-19th century when sea otters, the Kalans, were hunted to near extinction. Kalans have high-quality fur with oily, water-resistant properties. By the mid-19th century, the fur trade collapsed. The Russian-American company went from being highly profitable to nearly bankrupt. Its monopoly was broken, as other traders bought furs from locals at better prices. This was the first major problem. The second problem: trade was handled by merchants. But once administration was put in place, mostly by naval officers inexperienced in commerce, logistical chains broke down, and pricing policies were wrong. Money stopped flowing from Alaska to Russia efficiently. Additionally, American gold seekers infiltrated the territory. In 1853, the Governor-General of Russian Siberia wrote to Emperor Alexander II that,
"We will lose Alaska for several reasons. First, it is economically unprofitable. Second, America, which already acquired Louisiana and Texas, is nearby. They will inevitably take Alaska, by war or peacefully, because we cannot defend it. Sending troops there would be impossible."
The second factor: Russia lost the Crimean War, 1853 to 1856, which drained the treasury. Alexander II sought 42 million rubles on foreign markets. In 1857, Prince Constantine, the emperor's brother, suggested this sale would be very timely, as the United States seeks to expand, and we cannot recover the colony. Negotiations with the United States began, but paused during the American Civil War. Russia remained supportive of the federal government, and both countries had a common concern about Britain. Other issues: food shortages on Alaska, logistical problems, and indigenous uprisings. Russian forces struggled to maintain control, leading to bloody conflicts. Negotiations with the Americans continued. On December 16, 1866, the final meeting took place with United States President Andrew Johnson, Secretary of State William Seward, and Senator Charles Sumner, Russian Emperor, Prince Constantine, Baron Stoeckel, Ambassador in Washington. The Alaska sale decision in Russia was made at the highest level, and in the United States, it was advanced by Secretary Seward and approved by the President and Senate. No private individuals, leases, or secret conditions existed. The transaction was a full intergovernmental agreement. Some might ask, wasn't America much weaker then? Yes, but the Monroe Doctrine had already been established. The U.S. declared the Western Hemisphere off-limits to European colonization, and any European attempt to approach its borders would be met with armed resistance. Baron Stoeckel went to Washington with the Emperor's authorization to sell Alaska for $5 million. For context, 12 southern states, plus Louisiana, were bought from France for $15 million. California was purchased from Mexico for $15 million. so $5 million was reasonable. In the United States, some newspapers mocked the purchase, calling it Seward's folly, and describing Alaska as a land of ice and Eskimos. Negotiations began on March 5th and lasted several weeks. The United States agreed, and the purchase treaty was signed on March 30th, 1867. The United States acquired the entire Alaskan peninsula along the 141st meridian west of Greenwich, the southern 10-mile coastal strip bordering British Columbia, the Alexander Archipelago, the Aleutian Islands, and other smaller islands totaling over 1.5 million square kilometers. On May 3, 1867, the United States Senate ratified the treaty, and on October 18, 1867, Alaska officially became a United States territory. On August 1, 1866, the check was handed to Baron Stockel. Reactions. In the United States, opinions were mixed. In Russia, it was seen as a defeat. Rumors emerged about a 90-year lease, with Alaska returning to Russia after a century, similar to Hong Kong's lease. British press accused Russia and the U.S. of collusion. What happened afterward? In 1880, major ore deposits were discovered in Juneau. In the early 20th century, the gold rush began, as famously described by Jack London. By the mid-1980s, nearly 1,000 tons of gold had been mined. Today, Alaska ranks second after Nevada in gold and oil production. Gas and strategic metals are also significant. The $7.2 million purchase ultimately yielded the United States over $200 million in profit. For the United States, Alaska was not an adventure or accident. It was a strategic decision. In 1867, the United States gained access to the Arctic, control over the Bering Strait, a direct border with Asia, and immense natural resources. Despite initial ridicule, Alaska became an economic asset, military foothold, and key element of North American security. For the United States, it was an investment in the future. Today, Alaska is a vital state, providing energy independence, control of northern sea routes, and a strategic presence in the Arctic. Guys, thank you for watching till the end. Subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories from history, like this video, and let us know your opinion in the comments.